हरि ओम् नारायणाय परिपूर्णगुणार्णवाय विश्वोदयस्थितिलयो नियतिप्रदाय ज्ञानप्रदाय विबुधासुरसौख्यदुःख सत्कारणाय वितताय नमो नमस्ते आसीदुदारगुणवारिधिरप्रमेय नारायणः परतमः परमात्म एकः संशान्तसंविदखिलं जठरे निधाय लक्ष्मीभुजान्तरगतः स्वरतोऽपि चाक्री तस्योदरस्थजगतः सदमन्दसान्द्रस्वानन्दतुष्टवपुषोऽपि रमारमस् भूते निजाश्रितजनः हि सृज्यसृष्ट ईक्षा बभूव परनामनिमेषकान्ते नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् देवं नारायणं नत्वा सर्वदोषविवर्जितं परिपूर्णं गुरुंश्चागीतार्थं वक्ष्यामि लेशतः महत्वात् भारवत्वाच्च महाभारतमुच्यते निरुक्तमस्य यो वेद सर्वपापैः प्रमुच्यते यदिहास्ति तदन्यत्र यन्नेहास्ति न कुत्रचित्. Good morning everyone. Welcome to the Purushottama Yoga Club. The Pratipadartha session that we do every week, every Saturday from 8 o'clock till about 9:30 or so. We look at as many shlokas as possible from the Gita and try to get the word by word breakdown and also look at the meaning of these words, then try to make sense of what they are trying to convey. A, as a shloka, as a shlokartha, and B, very importantly, from the contextual sense. Right? This is all happening as a conversation between Sri Krishna and Arjuna. It's a long conversation. It's not just each shlokas might mean a lot to us. Many a times we take a lot of these individual shlokas and then we can keep on contemplating on them endlessly. But very important here is to note how all of this has contributed to helping Arjuna overcome his grief and also pushing him into a more active role of performing his swadharma, which is taking up the arms for the yuddha. Now, in that context, we need to note a couple of things, and this is something that we have seen repeatedly in Bhagavad-Gita so far, that Krishna does not give any unsolicited advice. He does not do any virtue signaling, and there is no time to discuss esoteric stuff which is beyond the utility value for that particular moment, right? And the need of the hour is to quickly get Arjuna back on feet. And there is no time to discuss anything unnecessary. So everything that is spoken with a lot of weight, with a lot of measure, with a lot of care, and absolutely relevant to the context. Right now we are in the Bhagavan Uvacha section where Bhagavan is speaking. This is the 27th shloka that we got to see today. And this is the 6th time Bhagavan Uvacha comes in this Bhagavad-Gita, right? There are 3 quick conversations that he has delivered in the 2nd Adhyaya. And there are 2 conversations being delivered in the 3rd Adhyaya. And this is the 6th one, right? In the 4th Adhyaya. Though it looks like the 2nd in the 4th. The first one in the 4th is basically the continuation of what was being delivered as the 2nd discourse from Bhagavan in the 3rd Adhyaya. But the context to what we are looking at today is that Arjuna has been told very clearly at the end of Karma Yoga, Arjuna, do your dharma. That's the quintessential message to Arjuna. Don't bother about anything, just do your dharma. No, just adhere to your dharma. Stick to your swadharma. Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharma swanushtita swadharme nidhanam shreyah paradharmo bhayavaha. The best thing for you, Arjuna, is swadharma. Even if you are not so great in your swadharma, do that. A swadharma is always better than a paradharma where you might be better. Maybe you can be an amazing beggar, but that is not what you are made to do. You can easily become the best of the janitors. You can easily become the best of the watchmen. But you are capable of something bigger. You might have few flaws in sticking to your current job. You might have a few flaws, but this is what is good for you. Swadharme nidhanamapi shreya. Even if you die performing your duties, that is better, because doing paradharma is bhayavaha. It is extremely dangerous. So that is the quintessential final statement of Karma Yoga. After having established the various ways in which Arjuna could be convinced that doing our duty is the most important thing, right? So multiple different discourses we saw. So that is where we have a very important question coming from Arjuna. Then why do we go wrong? Knowing very well that we have to do our dharma, we have to stick to our dharma, why do we go wrong? He asked this question, right? Atakena prayuktaha ayam purusha papam charati anichannapi. Even without our desires, anichannapi, even without my complete interest towards it, why do I still go wrong? I have an exam tomorrow, but I don't study. I have many, I end up doing a lot of wrong things. I have the wedding anniversary today, but I don't buy the gift. I don't shave, right? Small things if I do, I can do a lot better. And this is something that Krishna has told. Whatever you do, do them nicely. Just don't do things in a haphazard way, right? Do them nicely. Why do we still go wrong knowing very well what to be done? And that is where we are drawn to this message. Kama, Krodha, that are rooted in Rajoguna are the cause of all of these. And they are also very strong, right? The Kama, the Krodhatmaka Kama is very, very strong. You can control it through the Indriya Nigraha. When that goes for a toss, you can control that through the Manas, Manas control, the mind control. Or a little higher could be controlling the Buddhi, applying Buddhi. But there are other things that are stronger than the Buddhi, and that is where the first 15 shlokas of the fourth chapter was all about Paratattva. We have to surrender to that higher element, which is the easiest way to control the Kama, right? And the Paratattva is ultimately the Paramatma Tattva, the Atma, the Vasana. Even bigger than that will be the Paramatma, and that is what we saw in the beginning of the fourth Adhyaya, right? And from there we are drawn into the next section of the fourth Adhyaya, because fourth Adhyaya is all about Jnana, right? Some textbooks call them as Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. Some books call them as Jnana Yoga. But Jnana is the quintessential part, is the core element within the fourth Adhyaya. Jnana, whether we call it knowledge or awareness, is needed for primary two things. This is something that we discussed in the previous sessions as well, right? One, to understand the risk, where things can go wrong. And in this instance, the example given is I myself slip away from adhering to my duties. Can't be a bigger risk than this, right? If we can address this, we can address any risk. And the second element where jnana is needed is in displaying the character, in exercising the right decisions. Whenever we are faced with situation, what do we do? And in that, Krishna says very clearly, when you are so scared that karma is so rooted in creation, you can't escape karma. And in that kind of a scenario, if karma is the one that does all the wrong things, that triggers all the wrong things through us, then whatever we do, there is a risk that I'm doing something wrong. And there is a very common saying also, every action that we do leaves a imprint, a footprint behind. So there is a karma bandhana for every karma. How do we overcome that? Many people say, let us not do anything. Nivritti, right? We will not do anything. Let's retire to the woods, retire to the snowy mountains. Let's stay away from all action. Let us just contemplate on the Paramatma. People say that, but how easy is that? How practical is that? And what are the real benefits, right? So, if we have to really understand Nivritti, what is the real essence of Nivritti, that is what we get to hear from Sri Krishna from shloka number 16 of this chapter. And we discussed about it. Nivritti is not doing action, because there is no way somebody cannot do action. There is no way somebody cannot harm. The best thing to do is stay detached. Do not have any personal interest in any action. Do it for the sake of the Loka Kalyana, right? If I can understand my karma, my akarma, my vikarma, right? Three things: the dutiful action, the recreational action, and the forbidden action. Karma is the dutiful action, the ordained action. Vikarma is the forbidden action. Akarma is the recreational action, right? Vidhi nisheda rahita we call it, right? There is no ordinance for it, there is no forbiddance for it. It is both vidhi and nisheda rahita, right? That's the akarma. Krishna's beautiful message, which is according to many great commentators, the quintessential summary of the entire chapter, right? The message for the entire chapter comes in that one shloka we saw in the previous session, which is shloka number 18. Karmani akarma pashyet. No, treat your dutiful action like your recreational action, which means there is no resistance that comes from the body, right? In recreation, we don't show resistance. I can binge watch, Netflix program that is favorite to me that I like. But the same Netflix I may not be able to stand if the content is not of my liking, right? So there I get that resistance. So recreation is where we show no resistance on things that we like. Karma has to be done in that fashion, right? My dutiful action, if somebody who does his karma as though he does his akarma, and if somebody who does his akarma as though he's doing his karma, which is recreation with a sense of responsibility. I don't stay away from responsibility. He is the Buddhiman, right? And he can do anything. Right? This is the message that we get. Now, Buddhiman is also explained from shloka number 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. These five shlokas, we get to see some brilliant explanation of the word Buddhiman. One who doesn't have any vested interest, one who doesn't, stay attached to any the end result of the action, the one who does not take shelter under that. Many people tend to plan based on a futuristic result, right? So, no, nothing of that sort. One who is completely aware, one who is completely enlightened, right? There are many good parts, but eventually, that while explaining the characteristics of a Buddhiman, shloka number 23 takes us to the path where Yajnaya Acharata Karma. That Buddhiman, he always performs action in the form of Yajna. And this is in line with what we heard in the third chapter as well, where Krishna says, anything that we do other than Yajna is Karma Bandhana. It's binding in nature. That is, and binding in nature is we are accumulating Papa. In simple essence, we accumulate Papa. So, Buddhiman people, in order to avoid Papa or otherwise, like there is no resolution, right? There is no intent. They are just offering themselves to this yajna without even counting whether they are getting papa, right? But of course, they will not accumulate any papa. When they offer things in a pure yajna, yajnartaka sense, there is no papa accumulation. So they will offer yajna. Then he goes on to explain what are the different types of yajna, right? When we look at yajna, the way we understand today, right, we see all these yajnas that are essentially sankalpika yajnas. They are only the trailer. A trailer is not the movie, right? The advertisement and the product are two different things. The trailer and the movie are two different things. And similarly, yajna that we perform in front of Homakunda and the yajna that happens in real life are two different things. They are connected to the extent where the focus is the same, the mood is the same. The team huddle, you set the mood right. That's what we do in the Sankalpika Yajna, which is performed in front of the Homakunda, right? Savadi, all the different things that we take and then, offer all the ahutis and things like that. I mean, that is typically what should happen in a metaphorical sense in the real life, right? So they will hold that. So he goes on to explain yajna, right? Now, when we look at yajna in today's context, few things that are to be noted. One person cannot perform yajna by himself. right? If I have to perform a yajna, I need to have a ritvija, a person who takes me through the process. I need to have my dharam patni. I cannot sit in the yajna without my wife. Okay, that's another very important thing. Yajna is never completed before without calling a few well-learned people. So yajna cannot be performed in solitude, right? Nobody can perform yajna in solitude. Yajna quintessentially means there is a group of people, and there is a lot of selflessness in every yajna. We are made to say idam namama, Mahaganapate idam namama. We are made to say that repeatedly. This is not me. This is not mine. There is selflessness in yajna, not me. Right? There is no selfishness. There is selflessness, and it is always involving greater number of people. The third thing is, I think we discussed this also, right? Ya and Jna, two parts of the yajna. Ya is the prayatna, yatna, like yatata. Like, ya is the action, the intense action. Yajna will have intense action, and Jna, it will lead into jnana, jnanodaya. So there are two elements. So some of the things that we need to bear in mind. Right? So shloka number 24 of the fourth adhyaya, we are now shown different types of yajna. Right? I think shloka number 24 lays the premises Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavihi, Brahmagnau, Brahmanahutam, Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. Right? We get to hear these kind of things. Like, when we understand life, in life, basically, Brahmarpanam, whatever we offer into life, is basically an amsha of the Brahma. And Brahmahavihi, okay, in this yajna called life, Brahma is the offering, right? Brahma is giving, Brahma is offering. Okay, Brahmagno in the fire is also called the Brahma. That fire is also Brahma. No, Brahmagno, Brahmanahutam. It is by, it is given by, offered by Brahma. Brahmaiva tena gantavim. It has to reach Brahma alone in the Brahma Karma Samadhi, right? So, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. We will see at the end of the day, we are part of Brahma. What habits we offer is part of Brahma. What is being Huta, that is also is Brahma. Where the smoke goes, that smoke is also Brahma. Where it is getting into, it's all Brahma. Once we get that understanding right, I think we will get the context nice, right? Everything that we do is part of the Brahma Dina Seva. Everything is happening. So that's the first sankalpa, right? And then he goes on to say 25, like, Daivameva pare yajnam yoginah paryupasate brahmagnava pare yajnam yajnena evopajukvati. Like, different types. Like, there are different people who perform yajna for individual daivas, right? And there are some who offer every action of their life as a Brahmagni, like, into this big sacrifice called the Brahma. Right? Then it goes on to say, like, Shrotra Dini Indriya. There are different types of yajna, right? Shrotra Dini, all different sense organs are offered into the yajna homa, okay, called Sanyama, the control, right? Naistika. So I will, whatever is my hearing action, I will stay away from hearing. Or Shabdadin Vishayam, all the different actions I will burn in the yajna called the burn in the fire called Indriya, where I will experience but not get indulgent. So there is one where I completely stay away, on the other where I control in terms of limited use, only for the sake of jnana, because indriyas are basically jnana indriyas. Like, I taste for the sake of discernment, nothing more. And then that is where we are moved to the next shloka, shloka number 27, where it reads like this. Right? So we are now again, I think this section is where, at the outset, it appears like we are told different types of yajna by Bhagavan. We will make some sense of this, right? So we'll now move on to shloka number 27. Shloka number 27 reads like this. Sarvani indriya karmani pranakarmani chapare atma sanyama yogatna juhvati jnana deepite. Sarvanindriya karmani prana karmani chapare atma sanyama yogagnau juhvati jnana deepite. Let's scroll down a little bit. By the way, Vijayji has pinned the website. You can click on that and then we'll be led into a beautiful website by the Aurobindo group, right? Compiled by Dr. Sampadananda. It's quite handy. We will use it. Not that we are promoting this website, nor are we completely endorsing the thoughts, given in this school of thought. But we will make use of this, and we will use whatever is useful. We will make use of that, right, on this website. So when we click on that web link, we'll be directly taken to the shloka number 27. We scroll down a little bit on the web page. We come to a section called Padacheda. Pada is word, Cheda is broken, split, right? The split of individual words. Sarvani, Indriya, Karmani, Prana, Karmani, Cha Apare, Atma, Sanyama, Yoga Agnau, Juhvati, Jnana Deepite. So, like there are some sandhi, like Cha Apare becomes Cha Apare. Like, we will Yoga Agnau, Yoga Agnau. So there are Sarvani Indriya, Sarvani Indriya. So there are some sandhis where when two words come together, there is some modification, right? Anvaya, just above the Padacheta, we have a section called Anvaya, where the group of words that we saw in the Padacheta, they are unjumbled to make them appear like a prose, like prose order. So we will see the Anvaya. Hey Arjuna, so Krishna is referring everything to Arjuna, right? Hey Arjuna, Apare Yoginaha, we can say in bracket Yoginaha. Okay. People who are striving for yoga. Apare in bracket Yoginaha. Sarvani Indriya Karmani Prana Karmani Cha Jnana Deepena Atma Sanyama Yogagnau Juhvati. Right? What does it mean? For that we need to go on top. We click on dictionary. Hey Arjuna, Apare Yoginaha, some other yogis. So continuation from the previous shloka, right? The previous shloka it says there are the Naistiki Brahmacharya kind of self-control, like absolute abstinence from experiences. Some people, use the experiences purely for discernment, and they burn the experiences in their sense organs. Right? Those are the two examples we saw. Prior to that, we saw one shloka where Krishna says some yogi, they offer all their yajnas to different devatas, and there are some yogis who offer all their actions in this life in the Brahmagni. So there are different. So Apare. So some other, now in this shloka, some other Arjuna, some other yogis, Sarvani Indriya Karmani, Prana Karmani Cha. Sarvani Karmendriyani. Karmendriya Karmani. When we say Indriya Karmani, these are the Karmendriya Karmani. Basically, all actions. Basically, all actions together, is constituted in this Indriya Karmani and Prana Karmani. All the Karmendriya Karmani and the Prana Karmani. Every action is primarily a play of the prana, right? When we have to eat, there is air coming into play, and we control the air. Like, otherwise burp won't come. When we have to run, we will control the breath, right? When we have to hit somebody, we have to control the breath. Even when we have to sit, even we have to stand up, the breath, there is a hydraulic control that we are all doing. So they're all prana karmani. There are 10 different pranas. We will not touch upon that right now, but every action is basically a combination of prana karma and karmendriya karma. The karmendriyas are 5, right? Vak, pani, padan, chakupastapayu. So there are 5 karmendriyas and there are 10 pranas. Right? Every action that we perform is basically a function of these karmendriyas and the pranas, right? The hydraulic mechanism. We can't do any action without prana coming into play, right? Even involuntary actions, there is prana, right? When there is a wound in the body, if the white blood cells have to fight and some healing has to happen, even there involuntarily prana is coming into play, like samana, things, the different pranas coming into play. So we will not get there, but basically what it means to say is, apare yogina, some other yogis, sarvani indriya karmani prana karmani cha, all their actions, okay, sum total, all their actions, jnana deepena, through the light of knowledge, right? Atma sanyama yoga no juhvati, they offer or burn into the fire called Atma Sanyama Yoga. Right? Atma Sanyama is self-control. Right? When you look at the previous shloka, the Agnis are all multiple. Agnishu. They're all Bahuvachana. Because each Indriya will have its control. Each Indriya will be a fire in itself. But here, Atma Sanyama Yoga, no, it's a Ekavachana. There is only one control, which is the mind. Mind is being controlled. Right? It's mind control. So every action is now fed into the mind control. I don't control them through the Indriya. I don't control them through the control for the Indriya. I will just control the mind. Right? So this is basically, even a grihastha can perform these kind of controls. Right? Any kind of a person, regularly when we will just do mita ahara, mita vyavahara, everything is mita. I will control everything through the mind. Right? Let us see what Aurobindo interpretation says for this, right? Now again, different types of yajnas. One moment. Aurobindo interpretation says, and other yogis offer all their actions in bracket of the senses and of the vital forces. But basically, this is all actions into the fire of the yoga, of the self-control, kindled by the light of knowledge. Jnana deepena. Okay, so kindled by the light of knowledge. Again, different types of yajna, because the buddhiman are the people who will perform every action as a yajna. Now he is elaborating different yajna. Why buddhiman? Because they are the ones who can see karma in akarma and akarma in karma, and they can achieve anything they want to achieve. Right? So it's all linked up. And why do we have to achieve anything that we have to achieve? That is the primary question. Then why do we go wrong? Right? So it's all linked. Right? Everything is properly linked. So now we move on to shloka number 28. Very beautiful shloka. It reads like this. Dravya yajñas tapo yajñas yoga yajñas tatha pare swadhyaya jnana yajñas yatayah samshitavrata. Dravya yajñas tapo yajñas yoga yajñas tatha pare swadhyaya jnana yajñas cha yatayah samshitavrata. When we scroll down and look at the padacheta, we get dravya yajñah, tapo yajñah, yoga yajñah, tatha apare, swadhyaya jnana yajñah cha yatayah samshitavrataah. When we put them into the prose order, we see the anvaya. Hey Arjuna, we can actually bring apare, tatha apare samshitavrataah. We can say some other ascetics, some other ritualistic yogis, yoga yajna. So he will say dravya yajnaha, tapo yajnaha, tatha apare yoga yajnaha, samshita vrataha yatayaha, cha swadhyaya jnana yajnaha. There are different types of yajna. You can look at the dictionary, right, on the top. Dravya yajna. Dravya is basically rich material objects. It can be money, it can be precious gems, it could be special grains, it could be good looking garments, anything material, right? Dravya. Dravya is rich material, right? Physical material. So some people do dravya yajna, some people do tapo yajna. Tapo is tapati, extreme austere activities. Tapo yajna. lot of hardship. That itself can be yajna. Tata apare and others, yoga yajnaha. Yoga, some form of yoga, right? But yoga, again, we keep repeating this. The primary meaning of the word yoga is upaya, right? And samshita vrataha, samyak sita vrataha, people who, in proper vrata and yataya, always, enduring that, always struggling in that, or not struggling, but, deeply engrossed in that activity, in that action of vratas, like, people who strive with keen and effective vows, okay, which are also Swadhyaya Yajna, Jnana Yajna. There are two. Swadhyaya is study, Jnana is knowledge. Right? Study can be a yajna, and knowledge, which is either documentation of knowledge or dissemination of knowledge, teaching. Adhyayana is one, Adhyapana is another. Right? So Swadhyaya is Adhyayana, and Jnana is Adhyapana, like teaching, documentation, things like that. Right? Let us see what Aurobindo translation says. It says, the offering of the striver after perfection may be material and physical, which is dravya yajna, right? Or it may be austerity itself, austerity of self-discipline, the tapo yajna, and energy of the soul directed to some high aim, tapo yajna. Or it may be some form of yoga, like the pranayama, the rajo yoga, hatha yoga, or any other yoga yajna. Or it may be the offerings of reading and knowledge. Right? Very beautiful sloka. Right? Now, again, there are 5 different types of yajna, right? Here, dravya yajna, tapo yajna, yoga yajna, swadhyaya yajna, jnana yajna. Right? In the previous sloka is 1, atma sanyama yoga yajna. 6. In the previous sloka, we have sarvani indriya karmani. Right? Before that, shrotra in indriya. The second one, shabda in vishaya manye. So 8 different types. No, there are different types of yajna, right? Before that, we saw deva meva pare yajnam, 9. Brahmasna pare yajnam, 10. No, yajnena yajnamaya deva. No, there are 10 different types of yajna that we get to hear so far. Right? Anything can be yajna. Yajna need not be just sitting in. So yajna happens in the day-to-day actions, right? We now move on to sloka number 29. It reads like this. Apane juhvati pranam, prane panam tatha pare, pranapanagati ruddhva, pranayama parayana. Apane juhvati pranam, prane apanam tatha pare, pranapanagati ruddhva, pranayama parayana. The Padacheda gives us apane juhvati pranam. Prane apanam tatha apare. Prana apana gati ruddhva pranayama parayanaha. What does the Anvaya sound like? Apare in bracket yoginaha. Apare yoginaha. Pranayama parayanaha. Apare yoginaha. Ye pranayama parayanaha. Swan. Okay. Prana apana gati ruddhva. Apane pranam juhvati. Tata prane aparam juhvati. Right? And it also says the Anvaya for this gets completed with the next shloka. Well, we can see one at a time. Let's see what it makes. Like, apare, others. Apare yogina, some other yogis who are pranayama parayana, who are devoted to the controlling the breath. Prana apana gati ruddhva, controlling, restrain the movement of prana and apana. Right? Movement of prana and apana, gati ruddhva, controlling is basically the hold, the breath that we hold, right? In people who do pranayama might be aware. The crux of the pranayama exercise is the hold. So much of the people today prescribe very lengthy time duration for holding the breath. Kumbhaka. So there is something called the puraka, where we inhale, rechaka, which is the exhale, then kumbhaka, which is the hold. Right? There are 3 elements to the 3 broad elements of the pranayama, right? So prana apana gati ruddhva is basically the kumbhaka, restraining the prana apana, right? Apane pranam jupati. In apana, they burn prana. And prane apanam jupati. And in prana, they offer apana. Now, it doesn't need to be, see, nobody can do the inhalation endlessly. At one point in time, it has to stop. And when it stops, it should automatically give rise to exhalation. I think this is common sense, right? You can't keep on inhaling. How much can we inhale? Right? We can't. After a few seconds, 6 seconds is very good, right? 10 seconds is amazing, right? Beyond that, I don't think many people can do, right? Inhalation, how much can you do? You have to be extremely focused on that, right? So inhalation automatically gives rise to exhalation. And similarly, you keep on exhaling. How much can you exhale? At one point in time, the lung sac will become empty, right? You have to inhale. So an exhalation activity is normally burned in the inhalation activity, and similarly, inhalation activity is burned in the exhalation activity. Now, involuntarily, this will happen. Without any thought, this will happen. But give it a thought. Give it a thought, because this air that we breathe, it's an interconnected ether, right? When we go, each and every cell in the body is rejuvenated with the prana. And prana is the life force. And it is a shared life force from all other pranis, right? In the kingdom. And also all other jiva bhutas in the kingdom, right? It's a shared breath. So, and then controlling the breath, no, gati ruddhva, kumbhaka. See, they say, see, there is a calculation. In Kannada, there is a padya, ಆರು ಮೂರೆರಡೊಂದು ಸಾವಿರ ಮೂರೆರಡು ಶತಶ್ವಾಸ ಜಪಗಳ ಮೂರು ವಿಧ ಜೀವರೊಳಗಬ್ಜದ ಕಲ್ಪ ಪರ್ಯಂತ. Basically, Brahma has composed something called the Hamsa mantra. Now again, Hamsa, different people understand it differently, but when you look at it in a commonsensical way, Hamsa is basically an onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia are the words that sound what they are. Like Hamsa is the sound of the breath. The breath makes the sound. Naturally, it makes the sound of Hamsa. So just do the breathing loudly, you get the Hamsa sound comes out. Hamsa mantra is the natural mantra given by Brahma to all people. All living beings have one God-sent mantra called the Hamsa mantra. And the number of Hamsa mantras is 21,600 in a day, which means one cycle of prana apana, no puraka rechaka, is 4 seconds. Every 4 seconds we complete one cycle of breath. And then we repeat that 21,600 times. Do it with a focus, it is a Hamsa mantra itself. Nobody, even when we don't know any mantra, we know Hamsa mantra if we do it with proper focus and attention, right? So that's the beauty of this creation, right? Now that apart, the fun is 21,600 in a day is constant, which means if we extrapolate that, 21,600 into 365, we get some value, right? Some 7, I don't know what it is. Calculator, let me see. Let me try to get the ballpark of this. So 21,600, is per day, right? If you extrapolate that for the entire year, 365 days in a year, right? And then say, for example, we all live for about 100 years. Say the lifespan of human beings in Kali Yuga is typically 100 years, right? Now, about 7 crore number of Hamsa mantras we end up chanting in our lifespan. What is 365 into 21,600, right? We get something called 78 lakhs 84,000, right? In 1 year. Now multiply that by 100 years, right? We get 78 crore. 78 crore 84 lakhs Hamsa mantras in a lifespan. Now that is the number of Hamsa mantra we have to chant. That is given by Brahma, right? That's a lifespan given. 78 crore Hamsa mantras is everyone's entitlement. If I make one Hamsa mantra every 8 seconds instead of 4 seconds, which is the natural course, you make one Hamsa mantra last for 8 seconds, then I will live 200 years because I have to complete 78 crore Hamsa mantras, right? So that's how it works. The belief of how to increase the lifespan is increase the duration of the breath cycle. Each breath cycle, if you increase it, right, that itself is a massive yajna, right? Increasing the breath control. And that happens when you hold the kumbhaka, the holding part, if you increase it, right? That is where you increase the lung capacity. That is where you increase the duration of the breath cycle. And I mean, there are different sciences behind it, but basically, and it is also interconnected, not only with the other animals, with also the plant life. Like my inhalation is somebody else's exhalation, and somebody's inhalation is my exhalation. Like, it goes on the cycle, right? My inhalation is their exhalation, and my exhalation is their inhalation. When we look at the plant life, right? So when we look at it in a focused way, pranayama itself is a big yajna, right? That is, let's see what Aurobindo interpretation says, right? When we look at the meaning of this, I'm reading the thing. When you click back on the shloka, the main page of the shloka, others again, other yogis who are devoted to pranayama, having restrained the prana and apana, right? The puraka rechaka, pour as sacrifice prana into apana and apana into prana, which is basically, and these are the knowers of the sacrifice, yajna vidaha. Oh, this is in the next shloka, sorry. Yajna vidaha, and by sacrifice I have destroyed this in yajna kshapita kalmashaha. I think this is little problematic. They have brought in the meaning from the next, but basically, if I just look at the prana apana gati rudva and having restrained, regulated the flow of the prana apana, which is basically holding the kumbhaka largely, right? Pranayama parayanaha, people who are focused on pranayama activity, what will they do? Apare niyatahara. There are others who are, okay, the next look, I think this is the confusion with this website, sorry. And so basically, there are people who offer apana into prana, prana into apana, in an activity where they are completely focused on pranayama, and they will also regulate the prana apana gati, the flow of the prana apana, which is basically increasing the kumbhaka. That itself is another yajna, right? So this is 11th yajna, or maybe you can call it as 12 yajnas. Prana into apana 1 and apana into prana 1, or both breath activity as one yajna, one activity. So we are now looked at 11 types of yajnas. We look at more of them, right? Shloka number 30. Okay, shloka number 30, it reads like this. अपरे नियताहाराः प्राणान् प्राणेषु जुह्वति सर्वेऽप्येते यज्ञविदो यज्ञक्षपितकल्मषाः. अपरे नियताहाराः प्राणान् प्राणेषु जुह्वति सर्वेऽप्येते यज्ञविदो यज्ञक्षपितकल्मषाः. What does the padacheda give us? Apare niyata aharaha pranan praneshu juhvati sarve api ete yajna vidaha yajna kshapita kalmashaha. Anvaya apare niyata aharaha pranan praneshu juhvati ete sarve api yajna kshapita kalmashaha yajna vidaha. Right? I think this is like concluding all different types of yajnas now. Let's see what the meaning is. We click on dictionary. Apare yoginaha, niyata aharaha, having regulated their food, mitahara, who have very limited. There is a saying, right? Our food intake should be one morsel, which is basically the size of one fist. When we close the fist, right hand, we take the fist. That is how much we should eat, not more than that. And in the stomach, it says that, you have to fill only half the stomach with the food. In the remaining half, which is empty, one half is for water and another half is for air, which is basically fill only half your stomach with food, quarter of the stomach should be water, and one quarter of the stomach should be kept empty all along. That's niyata ahara, right? There are many people who say that, but yeah, there are others who follow niyata ahara. That itself is a yajna. Pranan praneshu juhvati. I think this prana, life breath, of course, but we have seen prana multiple times. There is another meaning of prana when we look at Mundakopanishad. Some of you who have listened to the talks from Aurobinji in Clubhouse under this club called Jata Veda, right? They conduct the reading and the chintana of some of the Upanishads. And very recently, we had this session on Mundakopanishad, right? Very clearly, prana. Prana is another name for Indriya, right? Indriyas can be. So, pranam praneshu. All the Indriyas in Indriya will be offered. Now, again, pranati iti prana, right? The one who's regulating the Indriya itself is pranati. But the one that is regulating that is the Abhimani Devatas, right? Every Indriya. So, apare niyataharaha, having controlled the food intake, pranan praneshu juhvati, controlling the food intake is basically restraining the urge to eat more. Now, ahara, bhojana, I think this is something I've already spoken a couple of times before this also during these talks. See, ahara can be literally intake of the food. But ahara, when you look at it properly, right, the food is the ultimate sense experience. The food will always have something good to see, something good to taste, something good to smell, something good to touch, something good to hear. A food should have all the things, right? It's the wholesome sense experience. Crunchy, so there is something crackling, okay, Cadbury crackle, something like that. So it should have a proper sound. Okay, slurp, soup. I think it should have a proper sound associated with it, right? Food cannot be good without proper sound. Food cannot be good without proper temperature. Okay, ice cream has to be hot. No, ice cream can't be hot, right? So it should have its proper touch, right? Rasam has to be cold. No, masala dosa can't be cold. Rasam can't be cold. Ice cream can't be hot. Temperature is important. The touch is important. The smell is important, right? The taste is important. Okay, the presentation is important. How it appears, it should look good. It should be colorful, pleasing. It can't be ugly looking, right? So, niyata, prana pranesh juhvati. So, we have to go niyata in terms of sense experiences, which is the wholesome food. Pranam pranesh juhvati. We have to offer our indriyas into the indriyabhimani devatas. Okay, ete survey, all of these yogis who perform different yajnas, api also yajna kshapita kalmashaha, who are dispelled of their sins by these yajna, are yajna vidaha. They have understood the yajna completely. Right? How many shlokas? 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. 7 shlokas. Right? See, this is another opinion. Let's see what Aurobindo interpretation is. But I want to share something about these 7 odd shlokas, 27, 24 to 30. Because it talks about different types of yajna, right? Let's make sense of that. Let's read the Aurobindo interpretation before. Others, having regulated the food, pour as sacrifice their life breath into life breath. I would call it as sense organs into the sensabhimani devatas. All these yogis are the knowers of the sacrifice, and by sacrifice have destroyed their sins. Now, sacrifice is a very watered down, discounted word. It's not a good word. Sacrifice is one element of yajna, not all, right? We have spoken about this enough. So when we look at this, right, see, yajna vai Vishnu. Yajna is life. Yajna is Bhagavan. The creation started with the yajna, where God, Bhagavan, offered himself into the yajna. Yajnena yajnamaya jantadevaha tani dharmani pratamanyasam. Like, saha yajnaha prajaha sushtva puro vacha prajapati. Like, when he created all of us, that creation was part of the yajna, saha yajna. Life is a yajna. It's not when he created, it is happening right now. We are all part of this yajna. I am speaking something, some good message will come out. You will pass on that yajna, that message to somebody else. It goes on and on. We never know where it will end up, right? It's all a long chain. We are all small, small sprockets. It's going on and on and on. 5,000-year-old scripture. Even now we are studying it, right? With lot of nishtha and things. So it won't happen without yajna of so many people, so many great people who kept on commenting about this, who gave some amazing insights into it, and we continue to reap benefit out of this, right? So entire life is a yajna. Today, nobody knows who invented idli dosa, but they are the best breakfast options in the world, right? It won't happen without a yajna. Somebody should have done, somebody should have documented it for the sake of the loka sangraha. Now, when life itself is a yajna, the way I look at these seven shlokas are perhaps the ashtanga of the yajna. People who do yoga, study a little bit of yoga, they understand, right? There is something called the yama, niyama, pranayama, asana, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, right? These are the ashtanga, eight angas of yoga is basically these. Now, shloka number 26, we saw that Shrotradin Indriyan Yanye Sanyamagnishu Juhvati Sanyama Agnishu Juhvati Shabdadin Vishayananye Indriyagnishu Juhvati. We see Yama Niyama there, right? We see Yama Niyama there. Then we see Pranayama Apane Juhvati Pranam. Pranayama is needed, to an extent, right? Because that is where the mind control happens. Then we need the asana. I think asana is beautifully depicted in the shloka number 28. No, dravya yajna, tapo yajna, yoga yajna. See, asana is the primary crux of the ashtanga. Asana is where the actions happen, right? Everything else is, some of them are precursors. It will prepare us to get into proper action. But action is what the crux of the matter is. And post-action, there are certain things to do so that we don't get disturbed, right? We continue. So, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi is an aspirational place. We don't get there, right? It's a target. It's a perennial target. It's a lifelong target. It's a never-ending target. Samadhi is there, okay, somewhere there. Let's not even bother about it. Okay, we will not achieve samadhi. Not easy. If we achieve, I think we will not be discussing here, right? So let's assume that we will not achieve samadhi. If we achieve samadhi, nothing like that, right? Let us. Okay, but we will not achieve. It's like the differential equation. N tends to infinity, never touches infinity. The Bayesian curve never touches the axis. It's on extending itself infinitely, never touching the axis, right? So from that point of view, samadhi is out, but the other seven angas are important, right? Asana is where all the action happens. Now look at that shloka number 28. Dravya yajna, tapo yajna, yoga yajna, tathapare. Okay. Others. Swadhyaya yajna, jnana yajna. See, when I look at this more and more, Krishna has very beautifully depicted 5 elements that is needed for any yajna. You take up any initiative, whether you want to take up a cooperative movement tomorrow, that we will do dharma prachara. Okay, we have some realization. Some 4 of us sit together and say, we need to do something for dharma. Such beautiful scriptures. I think we have to do some dharma prachara. Now, whenever you take up any project, right, first and foremost thing, in your office, you want to take up a project. What is the first thing that you need in a project? A sponsor. You need a sponsor. Dravya. You need wealth. Somebody to bless us with wealth. Seed capital. Even if you want to start an enterprise, you need something called the seed capital. Right? Dravya. Dravya is very, very important. After dravya, the immediate next requirement is tapa, effort. Right? You need people, arms and legs who can run the ground. You take any project. any initiative, any startup. First thing is the seed capital. Second thing is endless amount of effort, right? Unlimited amount of effort. That is tapa, austere endurance, right? The third element is yoga, upaya. You need to keep on finding upaya to overcome hurdles, to find solutions, to look at breakthroughs, right? You need upaya. You start a school. A school should have lot of clearances. How do you get the clearances? Somebody should have the upaya. Oh, I bribe him. I talk to the politician. I do. But see, good or bad, upaya is upaya, right? So going by their mental imprint and dharmic imprint, people might want to do the right things or the wrong things, but upaya is important. You need to have somebody who can provide you the hacks after hacks to get the things done, right? Yoga yajna. Then swadhyaya, you need to have intense research within every enterprise, whether I do a startup, whether I get into a cooperative movement, whether I do a community, event. There has to be swadhyaya, maybe deep, maybe at the surface level, but it can't be devoid of swadhyaya. You need to have a white paper. Every project should have a white paper, and white paper cannot come without flat facts, right? A white paper cannot be created without facts, and for that we need to have research. And then jnana. Every initiative has to get institutionalized. Knowledge has to be captured for the posterity's sake. Jnana is the essential part. The last, and that is the last part. Jnana comes to the end. How you document. Like for example, today I had a lot of customer complaints about my business. Now I take up a project to eliminate all that. First and foremost, I need as a sponsor. A big boss in the organization will grant, okay, I will sponsor this. Sponsor basically means that he's willing to offer resources, people time. That suddenly 8 hours of an employee is for other production activities. Now 4 hours of his time is required to do analysis to resolve the client issue. So I need a sponsor. Then lot of effort goes on into it. Then in the path, while putting a lot of effort, we need to find the ways out, hacks, yoga. Then a lot of study will happen. What are the good practices in the industry? What is it other departments are doing? What exactly the client is trying to say? How do the same client behaves with other vendors? Keep on doing a lot of this research. Then finally, when you get out of that mess and find the solution, you can't keep quiet. You have to document it for the posterity's sake. There is a new practice, if there is a modification, if there are new checks and controls in place, those things need to get documented. Jnana is the quintessential final end point, culmination point of every yajna. Italy today, there are people who document the amount of gram, how much, and people have been struggling to do that. Like my mom's time and all, they wouldn't know how to tell the measure. Oh, handful of salt to taste, handful of urad dal, things like that. Right? They have a very haphazard way, but more and more evolution today, people are documenting it by the gram. There are very strongly prescriptive, documentations of it. But we didn't know. Sometime back, we didn't know. When somebody wanted to create that, when they went on to the quest of discovering Italy, maybe they wasted a lot of batter. Maybe they wasted a lot of rice. Maybe they wasted a lot of fuel. Maybe they wasted a lot of fire. Right? But somebody was willing to go for it. Okay, I will sponsor. Right? So all of these elements are needed for everything. That's the asana. Okay. Pratyahara. That's the first statement. Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavihi, Brahmagnau, Brahmanahutam, Brahmaiva tena gantavyam, Brahma karma samadhina. Right? And then Swadhyaya. Sorry, Pratyahara. Dhyana. Dhyana is what? The focus, right? What is my concentration level? Daivameva pare yajnam. The second sloka was where the mind imprint comes. So when we see the internal focus, when we see the concentration points, when we see the behavioral thing, which is the yama niyama, when we see the regulations and the rules, the niyama, all of these things are there in these 7 shlokas for the yajna. I call them, I kind of see it as the ashtanga for the yajna. He's explained yajna because In the third chapter, he tells the rules of engagement of yajna. He tells the advantages of yajna. He talks about the complicated structure of the yajna, but he doesn't explain what is yajna. This chapter is explaining yajna, and he doesn't talk so much about yajna after this. This is where it ends, right? So this is just a brief thought. When we look at this 7 shlokas together, I think more swadhyaya of these 7 shlokas perhaps gives us a little more. Right? Let's see 31st shloka. Yajnashishtamrutabhujo yanti brahma sanatanam nayam lokostya yajnasya kutonyah kuru sattama. Yajnashishtamrutabhujah yanti brahma sanatanam nayam lokostya yajnasya kutonyah kuru sattama. The padacheda yajnashishta amrita bhujah yanti brahma sanatanam na ayam lokah asti ayajnasya kutah anyah kuru sattama. Anvaya he kuru sattama yajnashishta amrita bhujah sanatanam brahma yanti ayajnasya ayam lokah na asti anyah kutah. One question. Whenever Krishna asks a question in his discourse, make note of those. These are all brilliant shlokas. I mean, may mark the entire Bhagavad-Gita as brilliant, no doubt. But let's see what it means. Hey Kuru Sattama, oh best among Kurus. Hey best among Kurus. Hey Arjuna, Yajnashishta Amrita Bhujah. One who eats from the remnants of a yajna. One who eats the leftover amrita of the yajna. And in the same sense, he made up something in the previous chapter. Yajna shishta shinah santo muchyante sarva kilvishaihi. Right? So very similar to that in the third chapter. I think shloka number 17, 18, somewhere around that. Right? Yajna shishta shinah santo muchyante sarva kilvishaihi. The one who partakes from the leftover of a yajna, he will be freed from all papa. Sarva kilvishaihi. Right? So here also he says, yajna shishta, whatever is left over from the yajna, amrita bhujaha, that nectar of immortality, one who consumes bhujaha, sanatanam brahma yanti, the eternal brahma he will acquire, he will attain to. Ayajnasya, but the one who is without yajna, ayam lokah nasti, this world does not exist for him. There is nothing in this world for him. Anyah lokah kutaha, where is the other world for him? Where will he get the Brahma Loka? Okay, where will he attain the Brahma Bhava? He will not. Right? Again, just briefly emphasizing the importance of the Brahma, but also if you have to make it as the Ashtanga of the Yajna, that Brahma Loka, that Paraloka, Anya Loka is the aspirational target for us to go, right? Okay, go there, but Yajna is very, very important. Right? So let's see what Aurobindo interpretation says for this. Oh, best among the Kurus, they who enjoy the nectar of immortality left over from the sacrifice, attain to the eternal Brahman. This world is not for him who does not sacrifice. How then any other world for him? Right? That's the interpretation. Right? So again, Yajna, right? This is all Yajna, and in Yajna, absolute selflessness, which means my partaking is towards the end. Right? That's the core message of this shloka. We move on to shloka number 32. Evam bahuvidha yajna vitata brahmano mukhe karmajan vidhitan sarvan evam jnatva vimoksyase. Evam bahuvidha yajna vitata brahmano mukhe karmajan vidhitan sarvan evam jnatva vimoksyase. Padacheda reads like this. Evam bahuvidha yajna vitataha brahmana mukhe Karmajan vidhi tan sarvan. Evam jnatva vimokshase. What does the Anvaya give us? The unjumbling of the words. Evam bahuvidhaha yajnaha brahmanaha mukhe vitataha. Tan sarvan karmajan vidhi. Evam jnatva vimokshase. What does that mean? We click on dictionary. Hey Kuru Saptama, again referring to Arjuna, right? Evam, thus, Bahuvidhaha yajnaha, different types of yajnas are Brahmanaha mukhe vitataha, are played out in the mouth of Brahma, are extended in the face of Brahma. Basically, when it is saying extended in the face of Brahma or played out in the face of Brahma, Brahmarpanam, right? Brahmahavihi, Brahmagno, Brahmanahutam, Brahmaiva tena gantavyam, Brahma karma samadhi. Every parts of Brahma are being acted upon in Brahma and then going into Brahma, which means the ultimate consumer of everything is Brahma. And where do we consume? Through the mouth. My consumption doesn't happen through another inlet, right? It has to happen through the mouth. So, which means every action, my talk here, you're listening here, somebody else's talk somewhere, somebody else's some other action. All of these things are happening in the mouth of Brahma. And if they're happening in the yajnartaka sense, then they will be consumed by Brahma. That is where the mouth comes into play. He will consume. Whatever good we do, from a yajnartaka sense, the Brahma will consume them. Right? And all these different types of yajna, whether it is Daivameva Pare yajna, or Brahmagnava Pare yajna, or it is Shotradin Indriyan yajna, Shabdadin Vishayan yajna, Pranapana Gati yajna, Pranayama Parayana yajna, or Dravya yajna, Tapo yajna, Yoga yajna, Swadhyaya yajna, Jnana yajna. All these different types of yajna done in the yajnartaka sense are consumed by Brahma. They are played out in the face of Brahma. They are played into the mouth of Brahma. Right? Tan sarvan karmajan vidhi. Karmajan means karmat jayate. Karmaja. Right? Tan sarvan karmajan vidhi. Know them all to be born out of action. Right? There can be no yajna without karma. Very clear message here. There is absolutely zero yajna without karma. Karma is quintessential. Nobody can escape karma. Again, if the question is pravritti or nivritti, there is nothing called nivritti. Do it for the sake of yajna. Do it without attachment. That itself is as good as doing no action. But when I go for no action, I might bring in more karma because there is nothing called no action. I might be doing some nonsense action. Right? So don't aim for no action to be freed from papa. Do yajnartha karma, which is devoid of expectation, selflessly, nicely, for the sake of Brahma, so that Brahma consumes. Do it so nicely that Brahma consumes happily. Right? Karma, and they are all born out of karma. There is no yajna without action. Evam jnatva vimoksha. No, you will be free from what? From Ashubhat. Shloka number 16 says, Yajnatva mokshase Ashubhat. Right? You will be free from Ashubha. You will not worry about Papa. Because the question from Arjuna is, Asakena prayuktaha ayam purusha papam charati. Don't bother. You will be free from such thoughts of what is Papa, what is Ashubha. You will be moksha. You will be mukta. Right? The Aurobindo translation say for this. Let's see. Therefore, all these and many other forms of yajna have been extended, played out in the mouth of Brahma, right, which receives all offerings. Nice. Know you that all these are born of work alone, and also know that you shall be free by doing those yajnas. Some of this English words I find it very funny and difficult to read them. Thou shalt. That's okay. We move on to the next shloka, 33. Shreyan dravyamaya yajna jnana yajna parantapa sarvam karma khilam partha jnane parisamapyate. Shreyan Dravyamayad Yajnat Jnana Yajna Parantapa. Sarvam Karma Kilam Partha Jnane Parisamapyate. Padacheda Shreyan Dravyamayat Yajnat Jnana Yajna Parantapa. Sarvam Karma Akilam Partha Jnane Parisamapyate. Right? What does the Anvaya tell us? He Parantapa, Dravyamayat Yajnat Jnana Yajna Shreyan. He Partha, Sarvam Akilam Karma Jnane Parisamapyate. What does that mean? We click on dictionary. He Parantapa, O Arjuna, Parantapati, one who destroys the enemies. Dravyamayat Yajnat Jnana Yajna Shreyan. Jnana Yajna is always better than Dravya Yajna. Right? Hey Partha, O Partha, Sarvam Akilam Karma, all these entire actions, Jnane Parisamapyate, they will culminate in Jnana alone. What we spoke, right? Yajna, when we think of previous sloka, Karmajan Vidhitan Sarvam, they are all born out of Karma and they are all Jnane Parisamapyate, they all culminate in Jnana. So, Yatna, Jnana, together we get Yajna, Yajna, right? So that's exactly what we've been speaking. But look at this shloka, right? Very beautifully. He calls Arjuna as Parantapa. Second time he's calling Arjuna as Parantapa. I think shloka number 4. Right? Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavacharjuna. Tanyaham veda sarvani natvam vedha Parantapa. Parantapa, see, para is such a beautiful word. Para can be any mean. Para can be something superior. Para can be that ultimate. It can be anything, right? Para can also be towards. Oh, Mattara. Mattara means towards me. So very nice word, para. And the first section of the Jnana Yoga is the Paratattva. Now, the Ramanuja Bhashya equates that, something higher than Buddhi is that Kama, which is the Shatru. Kama is the Shatru. Kill the Shatru, Parantapa. Right? Overcome this para. Parantapa is overcome this para. Surrender yours. So overcoming the Bhagavan is best by surrendering to Bhagavan, by doing the Bhagavad Karya, which is all the Yajnartha Karya. So Parantapa is such a beautiful, Sambodhana here. Right? He's addressing Arjuna as Parantapa. Nice. And then there's another Sambodhana, Partha. We'll come to that. Hey Parantapa, O Arjuna, Dravyamaya Yajna, Jnana Yajna, Shreyan. Two ways of looking at this, right? Jnana Yajna is better than Dravya Yajna, of course. Because Yajna never gets completed without Jnana. So look for whatever endeavor we do, make sure Jnana comes out. Don't stop without Jnana. Document for posterity. Make sure it's all coming out. And that shloka number 28, Dravya Yajna, Tapo Yajna, Yoga Yajna, then looking at this statement of Krishna makes it seem like there is a hierarchy given there. The first and foremost thing needed for Yajna is Dravya, of course. And the last thing that will come out of the Yajna is the Jnana. In between we have the Tapa, we have the Yoga, we have the Swadhyaya. There is a hierarchy. Dravya comes first, Tapo comes next, Yoga comes next, Swadhyaya comes next, and Jnana is the ultimate culmination point. Also, Jnana is the best, then is the Swadhyaya in terms of importance. In terms of chronology of appearance, the reverse. But in terms of importance, the reverse. Right? Jnana is the most superior, then is the Swadhyaya, then Yoga is extremely important. Right? We see that. Matchmakers, peacemakers, they are the ones who have the Yoga, they have the Upaya, they have the way out. They are very important. Those people are more important than people who just slog out. Tapa. Right? People who can find the hacks are the ones who are better respected, better in demand than people who just slog. And people who can give you insights, research insights, are even more superior. And if people can institutionalize things, they are the best. Ultimate. So you look at this, right? So this shloka can give us a couple of things, but primary thing is, the primary message is Jnana Yajna is Dravyamayad Yajnat Shreyaha. Right? Because Shreyas is something that Arjuna's constant thing is go for the knowledge. Right? Hey Partha, Sarvam Akilam Karma, all of the work has to end up in Jnana. There is a beautiful shloka that Acharya Madhva quotes in the Gita Bhashya. Ajnanam Jnanadam Karma, Jnaninam Loka Sangraha. So for Ajnani, Ajnanam Jnanadam Karma. So for Ajnani, Karma is Jnanadayaka. There is no way to learn anything without karma. Addaiva Tushtita Mahyam Sa Mukta Ananda Purtida. No, when you get sorted in that thought, keep on doing work for the sake of jnana. Once you acquire jnana, for the sake of loka sangraha, keep on doing karma. That is your mukti dayaka, muktananda purtida. Right? So, sarvam karma akilam partha jnane parisamapti always happens in jnana. We end up realizing some of the best wisdom you will get from people who have been working relentlessly all along. They wouldn't be the jnani type, but they will have, they are the storehouse of the jnana. When you talk to some experienced farmers, experienced labor people, they have some gems of wisdom coming from their mouth when you really prod, when you sit with them, talk to them. Right? So, look at the Aurobindo interpretation process. Very beautiful. It says, the sacrifice of knowledge, jnana yajna, O Parantapa, is greater than dravya yajna. Jnana is that in which all action culminates. Right? The knowledge of the God is what they say, but yeah, knowledge at the end of the day. Parantapa, right? Parajnana. That's the interpretation. I think we can look at a few more shlokas today. From this shloka, 34 onward, right? Because we looked at the Paratattva. Paratattva leads into the proper understanding of what is Nivritti. Nivritti is not running away from action, but doing action without attachment for the sake of yajna. Different yajnas are explained and also being very categorically called out that all yajna starts with action, all yajna ends in jnana. That is the jnana. That is the jnanodaya. Right? Now we will be given more information about jnana. So this final section from shloka number 34, yeah, till the last shloka, which is 42, I think, yeah. These shlokas, 8, 9 shlokas, are fundamentally our jnana yoga. Now we will see the proper jnana yoga, right? Details about jnana. What is this jnana? We will hear about the jnana and what is this jnana. So we'll hear about the jnana now from shloka number 34, right? If I can happily classify this chapter into 3 sections. The first section is the Paratattva. The second section is the Nivritti Karma. The third section is the Jnana Yoga. Right? So the shloka goes like this. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. This shloka has to be drilled down to the head of every student. They should know. This is where I have a problem. Like, there is a book called Bhagavad-Gita for children, written by Rupa Pai. I don't know why she has omitted this shloka. She has included other shloka, Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya. But for kids, this is more important. They should know the beautiful message hidden in this shloka. Right? This is being ominously omitted, and that shloka has been included, which is a very high level knowledge. Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya, very difficult to understand at the first level, and not easily understandable by a kid. But this is what the kid should know, if you take my opinion. What does the Padacheda of this shloka tell? Tat vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninaha tattvadarshinaha. When you really want the real detailed knowledge, I think the message is coming here. Let's see first Anvaya. Anvaya sounds like this. Pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya tat vidhi. Tattvadarshinah jnaninah te jnanam upadekshanti. Right? What does that mean? We'll click on dictionary. Pranipatena. Pranipatena is by bowing down, by prostrating. Pariprashnena, by keen inquisition, by keen questioning. Pariprashna. Honestly, not out of vittanda, right? There are people who keep asking questions just to prove a point. No, ask a question with a genuine jijnasa, right? Willingness to learn. Sevaya, by service. Tat vidhi, know that. Jnana, we are talking about tat is jnana, because jnane parisamapyate, right? In the previous sloka. Understand that knowledge by bowing down, by surrendering, by prostrating. Pariprashnena, by constant keen inquiry. Sevaya, by doing their seva. Those tattvadarshinah, jnaninaha, those knowledgeable darshanakaras. Tattva-darshana is the research scholars, people who have understood the eternal truth, the elemental truth, tattva. Again, tattva is something that we keep hearing from Krishna. Don't take anything as gospel truth. Understand it by the tattva. That's the elemental scientific truth. Te jnana upadekshanti. They will give you the upadesha of the jnana. Right? Those tattva-darshinaha, those jnaninaha, they will give you, if you do their seva, if you have the keenness of inquiry, pariprashnena, if you surrender to them, pranipatena. So how to acquire knowledge? Now he is telling how to acquire knowledge. Right? There is no way to get the direct realization of knowledge. The first step for any greater knowledge is by asking someone. And there is a way to ask. And it's not just entitled ask, do their service first and then ask. In our workplaces, when we need some bigger knowledge, we need to ask somebody who's experienced in a nice way. Sometimes do some lackey work, get them food, get them burger during lunchtime. They will teach. And by the way, getting food is a very standard practice when we go to some places like Wall Street. Wall Street is highly, highly bully. I mean, you can't call it bully culture, but that's the culture. They have no time, those traders. If a new guy comes in, they have to do some lalagiri. Like, they have to keep on, doing their seva and things like that. But yeah, let's see what Aurobindo translation says for this. Learn that knowledge by worshipping the feet of the teacher, pranipatena, by questioning, pariprashnena, by service, sevaya. The men of knowledge, jnaninaha, who have seen the true principles of things, tattvadarshinah, will instruct you the knowledge. Te upadekshanti, te jnanam upadekshanti. Right? Very beautiful. This is how, so now they are looking at the jnana section. Jnana, you have to seek first through a guru. In the fourth shloka of the Purushottama Yoga, Taneva chadyam purusham prapadye, bow down. You fall down to the feet of that Adi Purusha. Right? Shloka number 35. Yajnatva na punarmoham evam yasyasi pandava yena bhutan yasheshena drakshasyat manyatho mayi. Yajnatva na punarmoham evam yasyasi pandava yena bhutan yasheshena drakshasyat manyatho mayi. What kind of a knowledge is that? Right? Let's see the padacheda. Yat jnatva na punaha moham evam yasyasi, he Pandava. Yena bhutani asheshena drakshyasi atmani an atha mayi. Atho mayi. What does the Anvaya sound like? Hey Pandava, yat bracket jnanam. Yat jnatva punaha evam moham na yasyasi. Yena bhutani asheshena atmani atho mayi drakshyasi. What does that mean? You click on dictionary. Hey Pandava, O Panduputra, hey Arjuna. Yat jnanam jnatva, knowing with knowledge. knowing that knowledge, the one that you seek from the Guru, right? Punaha evam moham na yasasi. You will never get deluded again like this. You will never fall into the ignorance like this again, right? Yena bhutani asheshena, through which all the living beings, all the existences, without a doubt, without an iota of doubt, or without any leftover, without any balance, ashesha, without any balance, without exception. Atmani atho mayi drakshasi, in their self, they will be able to see me, the Bhagavan. Right? The knowledge is such illuminating that whatever he declared in the 15th chapter, Mamaivam Sho Jivalo Ke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, we will be able to see that with that knowledge, that equanimity. Avinachitu tadvidhi yena sarva nidantatam. So from whom all of this has come down, know that to be, we will be able to see that Avinashi Brahma. Right? So this knowledge is such that once you gain this knowledge properly through the Guru, you get it from the Guru. But you need to make sure you internalize it so much that once you gain this knowledge, you will never be deluded again. And you will be able to see the Bhagavan constantly. Right? This is where the yajna, when we look at the prana, pana, gati, rudva, kumbhaka, and things like that, we have to internalize, not just gain the knowledge. We have to not just gain the knowledge, we have to internalize, because we have to see the Bhagavan inside. And that knowledge is such that once we get that knowledge, we will never be deluded again in terms of knowing what to do, what not to do, giving up and things like that. And we will be able to see the Bhagavan in everyone, in all of us, in each one of us. The Aurobindo translation says, possessing that knowledge, you shall not fall again into the mind's ignorance, O Pandava. For by this, you shall see all existences without exception in the self, then in me. Right? That equanimity. You will start developing equanimity. Let us see what sloka number 36 says. Api chedasi papebhyah sarvebhyah papakrittamaha sarvam jnanaplavenaiva vrujinam santarishyasi. Padacheda. Api chet asi papebhyah sarvebhyah papakrittamaha sarvam jnanaplavena eva vrujinam santarishyasi. Anvaya. Sarvebhyah papebhyah papakrittamaha asi chet api jnanaplavena eva sarvam vrujinam santarishyasi. What does that mean? Again, more qualities of this knowledge. What is the importance of knowledge? Hey, Arjuna, sarvebhyah papebhyah papakrittamaha asi chet. Even if you are the biggest of the sinners among all the sinners, सर्वेभ्यः पापेभ्यः, सर्व पापियों में से पापकृत्तमः असि चेत्, सर्वश्रेष्ठ पापी हो अगर तुम, ज्ञान प्लवेन एवा, ज्ञान के नाव से ही, ओनली विथ द बोट ऑफ द ज्ञाना, सर्वम वृजनम संतरिष्यसि, सब वृजन को, पाप को और इविल सम्यक तरिष्यसि, अच्छी तरह से तैर सकते हो, तरिष्यसि, you will be able to overcome them very nicely. See, this Anvaya is best when you translate them into the Indian Bhasha, because the sentences naturally fall in place. In English, the positions of the subject, the predicate are a little distorted. I mean, not distorted, but at least in comparison to the Indian language, it goes a little here and there. Right? So again, more qualities of this knowledge. A, you will never get deluded. Okay, you will be able to see the Bhagavan in everyone, in you. And even if you are the worst of the sinners that you had been, among all the sinners, you are the worst. If you get this knowledge, you will be able to overcome all. Sarvam vijnam, all evils. Samyak tarishasi, very properly, samyak tarishasi, right? You'll be able to overcome. Even if, so even if it's a very nice thing. With this knowledge, you will not be able to sin. And had you sinned before, now you get this knowledge, this is enough. This is your boat to overcome. Right? Let's see what Aurobindo translation says. Even if you are the greatest sinners, beyond all sinners, you shall cross over all the crookedness of evil in this ship of knowledge. Right? Very direct. Again, more qualities of the jnana. I think that makes it 10 slokas for today, and also time is 9:31. 2, 1. Namaste Vasudevaya Preyasa me Priyottama Samastaguna Sampurna Nirdosha Nandadayine Mukopi Yatprasadena Mukunda Shayanayate Raja Rajayate Rikto Raghavendram Tamashraye. Have a beautiful weekend, everyone. Jai Shri Krishna.